Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It is time for another installment of our City 101 Survival Series. This week, we're going to be talking about community, preparing your neighborhood for the collapse. More appropriately, this should be called community, the hidden lifeline in urban crisis, because that's what it is. It's a lifeline. Before we get started, though, if you're lurking in chat, go ahead and give me a 5x5. Let me know that you're there and let me know that you can hear me well. I see Rose in there. I don't see anybody else. But we'll wait for a couple of minutes and see what's going on. We'll cover some administrative stuff. If you're new to the channel and you're seeing this for the first time, go ahead and think about hitting the subscribe button before watch the whole thing. And if you like this type of content, hit subscribe and then go back and watch the playlist for this series, because it's prepping you on how to survive an urban crisis, and that can mean all kinds of things. Natural disaster, man-made disaster, infrastructure collapse, financial collapse, you name it. What we're covering in these videos is practical ideas that you can put into practice to help survive these collapses, these events. Okay, I see Jane just popped into the comments. Good to see you, Jane. Well, let's go ahead and get started. All right. There's an African proverb that goes, "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together." And I think that speaks to how a community can help you in the long run perfectly. All right, so first off, let's figure out why community matters in the full spectrum framework, okay? So it matters because in modern cities and suburbs, many people can live for years without truly knowing their neighbors. This illusion of independence is shattered the moment a crisis hits, whether it's a natural disaster, civil unrest, or economic collapse. The truth becomes clear. Survival is often a team sport. Community becomes the force multiplier in every aspect of survival. The lone wolf approach has its limits, particularly in densely populated environments where threats multiply and isolation becomes dangerous. Whether you're coordinating a neighborhood watch or bartering for antibiotics, your network may become your most important resource. In any crisis, communities are organized, informed, and proactive, that are organized, informed, and proactive fare far better than individuals who go it alone. So with that in mind, who here has weathered a crisis event in an urban area by themselves? Either that or your family. You've got your family or yourself alone. Who here's done that? If you've done that, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat. Put a 2 if you've done it in a rural area, because the dangers they're different but the same, if that makes any sense. So the next thing, community preparedness within the full spectrum preparedness framework. Community doesn't just add value to the full spectrum preparedness framework, it amplifies it. Remember I said it was a force multiplier? That's it amplifies it. Each aspect becomes stronger when shared effort and trust are woven into it, turning isolated preparations into a living network of support. Let's go over how community interacts with each one of the other 9 aspects of full spectrum survival or preparedness. Food. Groups can pool resources to create gardens, canning circles, and food storage co-ops that provide variety and sustainability beyond what one household could manage. Water. By pooling funds and investing in shared filtration systems and rainwater collection, groups ensure safe drinking water when the public systems fail. Shelter. Whether you're building or repairing a shelter, safe house, or fallback, many hands in a group make light work. I can attest to that from personal experience. The more bodies you got, the easier it becomes. It becomes exponentially easier. Security. Neighborhood patrols, alert systems, and mutual defense efforts deter crime and protect vulnerable members, making the community less attractive to bad elements. Medical. Shared resources and skills make treatment more accessible during crises, ensuring no one is left without at least basic care. And sometimes that may be what saves somebody's life, is that basic care, whether it's first aid or preventative. Communication. Community networks keep information flowing when the grid goes down, preventing isolation and spreading critical updates quickly. If you remember last week when we were talking, that will to live, if you get down because you're uninformed and you feel isolated, that's a killer. Transportation. Pooling fuel and organizing ride shares or evacuation plans extends mobility when resources are scarce. Financial. Barter networks and local credit systems let neighbors trade goods and services, keeping essential items moving when banks fail. Mental and spiritual. Peer support groups, religious gatherings, and shared morale building activities help communities endure stress and despair. When these aspects are reinforced by community, survival shifts from a solitary struggle to a collective force multiplier. This interconnected strength not only improves day-to-day readiness, it also directly enhances your chance to overcome chaos in a crisis. Rose says, I understand what you mean on community. Although there were times when I needed to travel trying to find someone to make that trip was not successful. They at times were more a hindrance than a help. So I learned quickly how to travel safely on my own. Yep. Keep at it though, Rose. Got to keep at it. Don't let it get you down. Now here's something to remember. This is probably the most important thing about communities you need to remember. Community is intentional. Strong communities don't emerge by accident. They are built deliberately through repeated acts of connection, shared effort, and mutual accountability. Every relationship, tradition, and role is the product of conscious choices designed to foster trust, cooperation, and resilience. Without intentionality, even well-meaning groups can fracture under stress or fail to achieve their full potential. This is so true. This is so true. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people who had groups fall apart over the smallest inconsequential things, and it's because the intentionality wasn't there. They just came together and the fractures were just too much to overcome. So now we need to talk about the circles of trust. You hear this a lot, and it's important to go over. So every intentional community operates within overlapping circles of trust, each requiring different levels of commitment and discretion. Family or tribe. This is the most trusted group. These are the people you would trust with your life and your wife if you are not around, or your husband for you ladies. These are individuals whose loyalties, values, and capabilities you know intimately. Decisions here are personal, high stakes, and require absolute trust. Think about it. Would you trust somebody with your life if you didn't know them intimately? I don't know about you, but I'd have a hard time. I'd have a hard time doing it. Same goes with my wife. So then the next circle, we'll call it the middle circle. This is your community and trusted members of that community. These are the members of your intentional community or close allies in the area. These are the people who you would trust with your wallet when you weren't around. You rely on them for shared resources, collaboration, and support during everyday operations and emergencies. Trust is strong. Accountability and clear boundaries are essential. Now, I'm going to go back and reiterate something. These are members of your intentional community or close allies in the area. So just because somebody's in your community doesn't mean they have to be in your circle of trust. They don't have to be that as close to you as your family or your what you would consider your tribe. Okay. So just remember that. Everybody seems to think that just because somebody's in your community that you have to trust them intimately. You don't have to. That trust has to be earned. Excuse me for a second. I've got a cat that doesn't know her limits. Stay down. Okay, so the next one we want to talk about is the outer circle. This encompasses neighbors, local authorities, and society at large. People you interact with and have no expectations of being able to rely on in critical situations. You might offer help, share information, or build goodwill. In the end, though, you will protect your community core interest carefully. Recognizing and respecting these circles of trust ensures that community remains resilient and secure. By knowing who belongs in each circle, the group can allocate resources, responsibilities, and risk appropriately, strengthening internal bonds while maintaining constructive relationships with the broader world. And that's something that a lot of groups do too, is they let people in, and it's easy for it to happen, to let somebody inside your community that really does not belong there. We had it happen here. We've talked about it multiple times. So it's something that you have to be very aware of. Ken Corso, hello, how you doing? Glad you could join us. So now that we've established what these circles of trust are, let's talk about some of the special challenges in urban and suburban environments, because they differ from rural environments. So creating an intentional community in an urban or suburban setting is far from straightforward. These environments introduce a host of unique challenges that must be recognized and managed from the start. First one, limited privacy and space. High population density and small living areas make personal space scarce, increasing the potential for conflict. You know, if you live in a building with 300 people in it, it's completely different than living where I live, where I can draw a diameter a mile wide for this place, and there's only about 45 people that live within the circle that would create. You know, so it's completely different. Regulatory restrictions. Zoning laws, homeowner association rules, and local ordinances can restrict communal activities like gardening, shared living, or on-site workshops. Yeah, this is true that there's a lot more regulations in the city than there are out in the country. Diverse values and lifestyles. Urban and suburban populations are often culturally, politically, and socially diverse, making consensus building and group cohesion more difficult. Think about in these big metropolitan areas how many different ethnicities and ideologies that there are that you have to deal with. Next one is noise and traffic. Constant activity from traffic to nearby construction can create stress and complicate communication and shared activities. I don't know if you ever tried to do something at a crowded city park, how many people get into your space and become intrusive. And the last one, transient populations. Frequent turnover in neighborhoods and community members can challenge trust building and long-term planning. Hello, Susie. Well, it's okay. You can share with Greg what you learn here when he gets done with his chores. But understanding these challenges is essential for designing a community that can thrive despite environmental constraints. By anticipating obstacles and planning carefully, a group can strengthen its social bonds and operational structure, setting the stage for one of the most critical benefits of intentional community: increased resilience in times of crisis. Now, let's talk about that. How does the community enhance your chances during a crisis? It's probably the big takeaway here. This is probably what everybody's looking for. The multiplying effect of community enable individuals to utilize their resources efficiently and adaptively within the urban survival ecosystem. Like-minded people come together to face crisis, cultivate trust, and resilience. Shared efforts build camaraderie, the kind that turns strangers into allies when chaos erupts. So, how do we do this? Shared resources. Not everyone can stockpile everything. A community allows for specialization and distribution. Someone has food, someone else has medical skills, and another has tools and fuel. That's one of the upsides of living in a large population center. You've got access to a lot of different skill sets. A lot of people know a lot of stuff. They have to in order to keep the city running. Collective security. Defending a block or neighborhood is far easier with numbers. A rotating watch, early warning systems, and a coordinated response to deter looters and criminal elements. I said it during the security video. Just having somebody there is going to deter about 90% of the crime that you face. Emotional resilience. Isolation breeds fear and despair. Having a human connection can spark hope and laughter amid the chaos, creating the ultimate morale booster. Well, that's true. Problem solving and adaptability. Diverse background skills and knowledge pools lead to creative and effective solutions. One person may know how to fix a generator while another holds knowledge of the local terrain or barter markets. Speed and reach. Larger groups can accomplish more in less time, like clearing roads, repairing structures, distributing supplies, or coordinating evacuations. Accountability and discipline. In a functioning group, there are checks on behavior. This can deter bad behavior like theft, hoarding, or other destructive individual actions. Understanding how community multiplies your survival chances naturally raises the question, what kind of groups can provide that strength in practice? Communities don't form out of thin air. They often grow from existing networks, organizations, or shared interests. In the next section, we're going to explore the different types of community support groups you can tap into to help build, each offering unique strength in the preparedness arena. Well, let's look at the chat real quick. No Quarter says he needs a glass of bourbon. Hopefully after you're done here, you're not going to need it because you're going to have all the knowledge you need to build a community. Hey, Lynn, what's up? I don't want to live near the guy in an apartment building that has a bit of fuel. That stuff burns. Oh, goes boom. Yes, it can. But if you're not in tight with somebody that has fuel, then you're going to have it yourself. Just remember that. The types of community support groups in the preparedness arena. From neighborhood watch groups to faith-based organization, the forms of community support are as diverse as the crises they prepared to face. All right, so let's talk about some of these existing support groups that you can tap into. All right, so neighborhood watch groups. A lot of neighborhoods make these things. Originally, they're designed for crime prevention. These can evolve into multi-purpose resilience hubs. They can facilitate emergency drills, radios, security patrols, and resource mapping. Faith-based organizations. Organized religious groups often have existing community structures, volunteer systems, and morale support. They can become crucial centers for aid distribution, counseling, and shelter. Think about this. Think about every time there's a natural disaster. Who always seems to be out there on the front line providing direct support before even the government gets there? Always tends to be these faith-based groups. Mutual assistance groups. This is from the prepper world. The backbone of many preparedness networks, these informal or formal alliances of preppers agree to share skills, equipment, or security during crisis scenarios. They are often built around shared values or geographic proximity, i.e., your neighborhood. Now, I don't know how big these are in the city. I know they exist, but I don't know how prevalent they are. Probably different in different regions of the country. But homeschooling and co-op networks. Groups centered around education often share skills, food preparation, childcare, or moral support during a crisis. Urban homesteading and sustainability groups. This is another one. You guys should tap into these if you can find them in your area. These groups emphasize food sovereignty and local resilience. They become perfect allies when supply chains break down. Amateur radio clubs. Ham operators practice their skills and test their gear on a regular basis. This is critical for grid-down communication. They are often overlooked, but invaluable. And here's one, you guys, everybody in the chat, you belong to this one. Online community forums or social media groups. Prior to a crisis, these can help you identify like-minded individuals, organize events, or share intel. They are vulnerable to disruption when grid goes down. This is something that you need to take advantage of, these online communities before something happens, all right? Exploring the many types of community support groups highlights how many avenues already exist for building resilience. Simply knowing these groups are out there isn't enough. True preparedness comes from actively creating connections and strengthening ties before disaster strikes. The next section will show you practical steps on how to build a community now and how to adapt those bonds when the crisis is already unfolding. So that going back to something that was in that last paragraph, a lot of people say, oh, I can't, I have a hard time meeting people and building a community and having the trust. Tap into these support networks, all right? These support groups, ham operators, your church group, whatever. Tap into them. They don't have to be within your inner circle of trust, but just having them in your hip pocket when something happens could lead to something better during a crisis. So how to build a community before and during a crisis. Strong communities don't appear overnight. I can attest to that. These are built through small acts of connection long before disaster hits. A shared meal, a borrowed tool, or a neighborhood gathering may seem ordinary. These are, in fact, the first bricks in the foundation of trust that can hold firm when everything else feels uncertain. Building these relationships before a crisis ensures that when the lights go out or the streets grow dangerous, you already know who has your back. So before a crisis, very first thing you need to do, start a conversation. Right? This is the first step in building community. It's also the hardest for many. Anxiety about strangers or worries about OPSEC can be crippling. You need to put that behind you and just talk to somebody. Seriously, it's as hard as it sounds, it's that simple. So once you start talking to people, start small and start local. Have a potluck. I firmly believe this. Have a potluck or host a block party, join a local church group, or initiate a book club focused on preparedness topics. A simple barbecue can lead to discoveries, turning casual chats into life-saving networks. Next thing you want to do is identify key individuals. All right, you want to be able to fill those holes in the community. Find out who in your area has useful skills. Someone with skills like medical training, mechanical skills, or farming becomes a valuable asset during a crisis. Share without preaching. This is a hard one. A lot of you have a hard time with this. I know I fight this all the time, even still after all the years I've been doing this. Share without preaching. You can become evangelical about it without being off-putting. Not everyone has the same level of experience, so lead by example. Offer to help a neighbor's fence, invite them to your garden, or lend someone a tool. Build trust before sharing deeper preparedness skills. Next one, create a local contact tree. Build a call, text, or email tree that can be used for alerts and emergency coordination. Another one that I didn't put on there is online resources like Telegram or Reddit or Discord. All those can work. All those can work as a knowledge tree or an emergency escalation tree. And finally, train together. Host a training session on things like CPR, food preservation, or radio operation classes. Joint skill building improves both cohesion and competence. All right, now, one thing I want to talk about here, this is a sidebar, all right? So as you're trying to build this network, if you're the one starting it, you're going to be in a leadership position whether you want to be or not, okay? So there's some checkpoints that we need to talk about. Number one, leadership is an action, not a title. True leaders earn trust through deeds, not position. All right, so don't go out there thinking that you're the top dog just because you started it all. You need to lead by example. Accountability. Take responsibility for decisions and outcomes, good or bad. You're going to screw up. Don't try to offload it onto somebody else. If you are responsible for it, take ownership. Transparency. Communicate openly to keep everyone informed and aligned. Don't have secret meetings where only certain people in the community are invited. Okay, if you're gonna have information for the entire group, you should have it open to everybody. Ethical decision making. Balance survival and fairness and well-being for both members and outsiders. You can't just look out for your own little community. You got to look out for the greater community. Because what'll happen is, in a time of crisis, if you shut everybody else out and you're thriving and they're not, there's going to be ill will, and it may not end well. And then here's a reflection prompt. Who in your network of people that you know currently steps up in a crisis? Who could you support to become a reliable leader within your existing support network? All right, it's a question to ask yourself. All right, so now we need to look at during a crisis. So one thing you can do to help build a community is create a rally point or a community hub. Use a home, a church, or a public building as a coordination point. If something happens and people want to get information, they can go here and they can find it. Next thing, during a crisis, define roles and responsibilities. Things like who watches at night, who cooks, who filters water, who treats injuries. These are important things to know because you want to make sure that the proper skill sets are doing the proper jobs, right? But you don't want to silo people. Everybody needs to cross train. So you need to have people that don't know how to filter water go help the guy that filters water so that they can learn. Okay, use a decision-making process. Keep meetings focused. Consider simple voting rules or consensus decision-making models. This is there's all kinds of things out there to show you how to go through the decision-making process. All you have to do is go look for them. Adapt and evolve. Conditions change. What worked a week ago may fail within the next 4. Flexibility gives your group the ability to pivot when it needs to. So this is why we don't want to become stuck on our plans. We want to be able to move off our plans if need be. And finally, and this is the one that gets most talked about, but if you haven't done all these other things before this, this isn't going to make a bit of difference. Secure the perimeter, both physically and emotionally, is critical. Fortifying both physically and emotionally are critical. As you watch out for external dangers, you need to look inward for signs of burnout, interpersonal conflict, or depression. These things are going to happen. We talked about that last week during the mental and spiritual resiliency video. Laying the groundwork for community before and during a crisis is only half the battle. Once those connections are made, the real test comes in how individuals contribute, support, and rely on each other when pressure mounts. To keep the group functional and prevent it from fracturing, you need clear responsibilities and fair expectations that balance giving with receiving. So we're talking about responsibilities. Responsibilities to and expectations from the community. Crisis doesn't erase human nature. In fact, it magnifies it, revealing who will step up, who will falter, and how much a community can endure. A strong community requires commitment. It's not just about receiving help, it's also about contributing your share. Community isn't a transaction, it's a bond forged by reliability or invulnerability. Think of it as a family. You give because you can, because you care, and you receive because others do too. So what are our personal responsibilities? And this is one that everybody, when they get in a community, they want to talk about what the community can do for them. What are your responsibilities to the community? First and foremost, you should pull your weight. Whether it's patrolling, cleaning, cooking, or teaching, everyone must contribute, right? And you contribute what you can. And everybody has value. Everybody has value. Don't think that you have nothing to offer a community, because I guarantee you there's something that you do that nobody else is either capable of or is willing to do. Right? So you've got something to contribute. Communicate clearly and honestly. Avoid gossip, panic, or withholding critical information. Respect the group's values and rules. Even in crisis, cohesion relies on shared ethics and standards. That's the one thing that the shared ethics and standards are the one thing that will hold a community better than anything else. My opinion, of course. Finally, Offer support, not just supplies. Sometimes just providing physical support isn't enough. Offering a helping hand or shoulder to lean on is sometimes more important than stuff. It's a good thing to remember. That applies all throughout life, not just in a crisis. So what are some reasonable expectations we can have? All right. Here, I want to go through these, and I want you guys to think about some expectations that you would have from any community that you were part of, okay? Some reasonable expectations are fair access to group resources, especially when you've contributed meaningfully. People, we shouldn't be keeping a ledger of who gives what, but people do. And if you've given a lot and you're not getting a lot in return, it can really create a feeling of alienation. Everyone wants a say in group decisions, especially those affecting your safety or livelihood. When it gets personal like that, it's important. Protection and inclusion. The group must watch each other's backs, even the people you don't like. We had this saying in the Marine Corps. He may be an idiot, but he's our idiot. Don't mess with him. And finally, respect and recognition. Your skills, labor, and sacrifices should be acknowledged. Don't be disrespectful to people in front of the group. All right, that's the huge thing. All right, and when somebody does something good, acknowledge it. You saw the new 100% NFA exempt firearms? No, I have not. I'll have to check that out after we're done here. So one of the biggest things that will tear a community apart is conflict and squabbles. So how do we handle that? No matter how strong or well-intentioned a group may be, conflict is inevitable when people live and work closely under stress. Left unchecked, small disagreements can grow into fractures that weaken the community at the very moment unity matters most. This can lead to utter destruction of the community. The key is not to avoid conflict, rather it's to address it early, openly, fairly, and consistently. So before a crisis, here's some things we need to do. We need to set clear expectations early. Establish a simple code of conduct or group charter that can spell out values, responsibilities, and non-negotiable behaviors. Yes, I said it. I am all about freedom and liberty, but I just said it right there. There needs to be some sort of expectation, a simple code of conduct. Doesn't have to be written down, but you need to talk about it, and everybody needs to come to the same general consensus about it, or it will not work. Next thing we do is we can create a conflict resolution process. Decide ahead of time how disputes will be handled, whether through mediation, voting, or council-style decisions. Having rules in place prevents arguments about how when tempers are high. Finally, practice communication skills. Encourage active listening. Remember, we've got 2 mouths and 1 ear. I sometimes have a hard time remembering that. It's something I'm trying to work on. But we need to listen, respectfully debate, and give constructive feedback during training or planning sessions. This helps members build trust before stress levels spike. And on the flip side of that, be receptive. Be receptive to constructive criticism. So that's what you can do before a crisis happens. Now, during a crisis, we need to address issues quickly, but not harshly. Some grievances can fester or be ignored. Deal with theft, laziness, or insubordination promptly. Focus on correction rather than punishment whenever possible. Everybody likes talking about the punishment for this stuff, but we need to talk about corrective behavior first. And another thing, if you're in a community and you run afoul of it because of one of these things, again, take responsibility for it. Accept the justice that's meted out as long as it's fair and equitable. All right. Use mediation and neutral voices. Appoint trusted members as mediators who can step in, de-escalate disputes without giving or without taking sides. Sometimes simply being heard is enough to restore harmony. Balance justice with survival. Severe breaches of trust, such as repeated theft or violence, may require group sanctions. When survival is at stake, fairness must be tempered with practicality, but ethical treatment should always guide our decisions. Balance justice with survival. I already said that one. Sorry about that, guys. Kind of glancing at the chat. I saw that Mississippi Homestead Journey popped in. How you doing? So once the crisis is over, and eventually the crisis will be over. Things may not be exactly the same when it's over, but it will eventually be over. First thing we need to do is debrief and learn. Once stability returns, gather as a group to reflect on conflicts that arose. What worked, what didn't. These lessons strengthen resilience in the future. Repair relationships. Encourage forgiveness where possible and reintegrate members who may have faltered under pressure. Long-term cohesion often depends on giving people a chance to rebuild their trust. That's why I learned a long time ago that we don't immediately kick somebody out of the group whenever they make a mistake. I used to be one of the ones that wanted to do that, but that wasn't the proper way to do it. And finally, we want to revisit and revise rules. Update your community charter or code of conduct with insights gained. Preparing for the next crisis means improving on the last. Conflict, when handled constructively, can actually strengthen a community by reinforcing trust and accountability. When people see that disputes are managed fairly, they are more willing to commit their time, labor, and loyalty to the group. All right, now some of the things that we need to think about beyond that are legal, moral, and ethical responsibilities of the community. You know, we've got these responsibilities beyond ourselves. An intentional community doesn't exist in a vacuum. Its actions carry legal, moral, and ethical weight that affect not only the members, but the surrounding greater community as well. Understanding and balancing these responsibilities is critical to long-term success. So first off, legal compliance. Communities must adhere to local, state, and federal laws, including zoning regulations, building codes, and safety standards. Legal violations can jeopardize the entire group. And I know that sounds kind of hypocritical on my part. I think a lot of these zoning regulations can be intrusive. That's why we get involved and we try to change them. When and where we can, we should try to follow the law, though. I'm just going to say that. Accountability. The community as a whole is responsible for enforcing its rules fairly, making transparent decisions, ensuring that no member is unfairly marginalized or exploited. Ethical behavior. When dealing with each other as well as the greater community, all members should uphold shared ethical standards from honesty and fairness, creating a culture of trust and cooperation. Responsible external engagement. Communities should interact with neighbors and local authorities respectfully, contributing positively whenever possible and avoiding actions that could create conflict or liability. Crisis-making decision. During emergencies, the community must balance self-preservation with ethical responsibility to others, ensuring that survival strategies do not cause unnecessary harm to outsiders. And finally, leadership. Crisis creates leadership voids. The community and its members should be able and willing to step in to a leadership or guiding role, if need be, to help the area around it survive or recover. By clearly defining and adhering to legal, moral, and ethical responsibilities, an intentional community strengthens its internal cohesion while maintaining legitimacy and goodwill externally. These foundations directly influence the community's ability to operate effectively and safely, particularly during times of crisis, leading naturally to discussion on how strong community bonds ensure enhanced survival chances. And I'm gonna do another sidebar here, guys. Tell me, and you guys, I want you guys to comment this. Tell me if you agree with me or not. 1, if you agree. 2, if you disagree. So I am a firm believer that a community in times of crisis should not bunker in. They should not close the gates. They should not turn away outsiders. In fact, I believe just the opposite. I believe that you should go out and you should, during a crisis, you should engage the community and you should provide that leadership role that the previous section talked about. You know, we need to step in. We need to take a leadership role, start building the resources for people who don't already have them, and guide people through the crisis. And here's the reason why. Here's my reasoning. If you bunker in, you are abdicating any role in guiding what happens during the crisis to somebody else. And who's to guarantee that that person that steps into that role is going to have your best interest in mind? Right. So it's in your own best interest to go out there and engage with the greater community and guide them through the crisis. That way you have a say in how things transpire and what the character of the community is going to be like after the fact. We don't want to shut the gates and open them up 4 weeks later and be greeted by a hostile group that's upset because you had a bunch of stuff and they didn't, and they had to struggle while you didn't. Right. So we want to, and I'm not saying go out and give all your stuff to people and jeopardize your survival. What I'm saying is we want to help. We want to provide as much help as possible to the outside community as we can. All right. We're getting towards the end, guys. In the end, you're not alone unless you choose to be. In the chaos that follows societal breakdown, your neighbors may become a lifeline or a liability. The difference lies in preparation, relationships, and leadership. By building community before a crisis, you vastly improve your chances of surviving during and after, and rebuilding after. Imagine emerging from a crisis, not just surviving, but thriving thanks to neighbors who become friends. Community is not just a nice-to-have feature of urban survival. It is a foundational aspect of full-spectrum preparedness. You don't need to trust everyone. You need to find a few people you can trust. Who in your circle can you reach out to today? The lights are still on, so don't wait. There you go. That is the latest installment of City Survival 101. If you made it this far and you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. At the end of the video, once it goes live, or at the end of once the live becomes a part of the library, I'm going to go in and I'll put a link to the playlist for this at the end of the video so you can check that out. Go ahead and comment down below. Let me know what you think about community. Share your experience with it. Maybe the offhand chance that somebody else may need to hear what you have to say. All right. Again, if you want to help the channel, you help yourself. Go down in the affiliate links below and get something to increase your food sovereignty or your modern self-sustainability. And in doing so, we get some crumbs from these companies, and it kind of helps pay the bills. In fact, I want to great thanks to somebody who went out and used our link to buy products from Jace, because we got a kickback from that. So we do appreciate it. So with that said, you guys got anything else? Well, thank you, Gregory. I appreciate the affirmation there. It makes it worthwhile. If you guys don't have anything else you want to talk about, any questions you got, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Remember, we've got our Homestead update next Tuesday, and then the following Wednesday, the day afterwards, we will have the final video in this series. We're going to wrap it up with a nice little bow at the end, and hopefully tie it all together well enough that you guys want to go out and enact it yourselves. All right. Listen, till next time, everybody, do something. It's late at night here, so tomorrow, do something that's going to improve your preparedness and your sustainability, And when you put your head on your pillow, you're gonna sleep better because you know you've done something to move yourself in the right direction, and you can wake up the next day and go pursue a life debt-free. Take care.
Survival isn't just about having the right gear, it's about mindset. In a world without the rule of law, what will you do to survive? WROL isn't just a game, it's a tool to hone your preparedness and survival mindset. Test your instincts, outthink, outlast, and outmaneuver your opponents in a world that's fallen apart. With WROL, every card you play challenges your thinking, tests your adaptability, and sharpens your ability to make tough decisions under pressure. Whether you are planning for an everyday emergency or prepping for the end of the world, WROL helps you prepare for the chaos of everything in between. Ready to level up your survival skills? Click the link in the description to order your deck of WROL cards today and start building your SHTF mindset. The apocalypse starts here.